Good morning, everyone. For those of you, I was wondering when I was preparing this sermon, just who would show up this morning. And I fully expected that Cynthia and Kale would show up. And if Eddie didn't show up, we wouldn't have the service this morning. And I knew I had to be here. But Freddie and Andrea showed up in their four-wheel drive Jeep. And there is a door prize after service. So, but we're truly grateful. I'm glad that most of us used our common sense and discretion and decided to stay home today. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing to take this time to cocoon at home, to stay safe, and to listen to the wonderful message that I hope to bring to you this morning. It will be briefer than normal because as much as I love Eddie, I don't want to spend the night at the church with him today. So, but even though most of you are not here today, we are still community, right? We are absolutely community, and we're grateful that technology allows us to do that. I want to say a special thanks to Eddie today for all of the hard work. It looked so effortless, but there was a lot of work. And for all the people who pre-recorded their portions of the sermon, thank you so much for all the work that you've done. I want you to use your self-imposed sheltering today to contemplate the very provocative portion of James' letter to Jewish Christians. Today we're talking about James chapter 2, verses 14 through 26. And it is provocative. And it's also very practical, as Cynthia's already indicated in her first two sermons in this series. James is an infinitely practical book. And also, famously, he doesn't mince words. He's very direct and sometimes blunt. So what is God trying to say to us through James today? One thing for sure, just what is the point of faith without action? Or in contemporary language, what is the value of deeds, of ideas without deeds? One thing is clear. Faith is not static. Faith is not words. Faith moves. Faith acts. James largely addresses Jewish Christians, whether through well-worn Jewish traditions or by simply not walking the talk. The words that James uses seems to ring hollow to him. He called them foolish. Words like go in peace, which is actually something we see often in this church. Or words like keep warm and well fed. Sounding nice enough, they to James were infuriating. And why? Because they didn't reflect the actions and the deeds of the people who were saying them. I wanted to share an experience I had over the holiday I tend to watch a few YouTube videos every once in a while, and I found a series of wonderful videos called Secret Santa by East Idaho News, of all things. And I stumbled across these truly beautiful and skillfully produced series of videos. I always found myself crying at the end of the video. For someone courageously trying to survive and live was given something amazing, something life-transforming by a local reporter. It may have been money to pay rent for a year. It may have been a new car for someone who didn't have any transportation. It may have been formula or diapers for a year. all incredibly powerful and incredibly emotional to me. But after watching a whole series of these videos, I wondered to myself what the true benefit of my observing these scenes of compassion was, other than giving myself a huge rush of dopamine. Ultimately, my emotional rush only lasted for a few minutes, unless, that is, I could find a way to do what East Idaho News was doing. I grew up in a large church in West Texas, and the expression, faith without works is dead, is something I heard quite often. And those of you who are lifers in the Church of Christ will know that that phrase sounds very familiar to a lot of us. But demonstrating faith through works was encouraged as a way to counter a narrative that people could do whatever they wanted and still be saved. Doing things was a way to assure one's own personal salvation and not as an extension of God's presence and light on earth. Doing is a universal human challenge, and we resist. So, what prevents us from acting in faith? Number one, I think, is a misguided perception that we are not qualified to act or to demonstrate that faith, that we don't know enough. James demonstrates that knowing is never enough. It would be like a young child standing at the edge of a pool, studying a book on how to swim. No amount of studying will ever teach this child how to swim. He has to do what? He has to just dive in, right? Number two, we are prevented from acting by the false assumption that we have little to offer. Let me be clear. Everyone who is listening to this sermon today has incredible things to offer in this hurting world, and don't let anyone tell you that you don't. Everyone. God did not create you to be inconsequential. No human being is inconsequential. God created you to be a light in the world. Number three, demonstrating faith means getting involved in people's lives. People's lives can be complicated and messy. If I'm honest, if we are honest, we have to admit that sometimes we just don't like complicated and messy. Number four, this is the toughest one for me. We are hesitant because we view empathy as a finite resource. Let me explain. To put it more benevolently, we can't imagine having the emotional energy to fully empathize yet again. But the reality is doing energizes faith more than anything else. If we are tired and we withdraw, we become more tired. If we are tired and we reach out, we get energized by that. We should each ask ourselves the same tough question James asked. Is faith that is not expressed in outward action faith at all? It is a good question to ask. What concrete steps can we take then? First, I would say dream. Julie and I are at the stage in our lives where we can at least see the day when we are fully retired. I watch a lot of videos. I read a lot of articles about retirement planning. More often than not, financial advisors use language like, make sure you have enough to retire, or getting to do the things that you always dreamed about, or having the financial resources to indulge your dreams. But the more I hear this language, the more it rings hollow to me. Nothing sounds more empty to me than having a great talent or having been fortunate enough to have financial resources and having no idea what to do with them. Rather than fantasize about what amazing things I might do for myself, what if each day I dreamed? What if each day I imagined what resources I might bring to bear to change the life of another human being? What if we all did this? We would be living in a transformed world, right? Second piece of advice, like the kids standing at the pool, studying how to swim, just dive in. If you look at the examples in the scripture from that we referenced today, Abraham did something far more frightening than diving into a pool. He raised a knife to sacrifice his own son. It was in doing that was the moment when Abraham's faith was truly beginning to transform. And then there's Rahab, the prostitute, who saw a need and sheltered God's scouts in the promised land. It was certainly not her position in life that gave her standing. It was in doing that is credited to her faith. I love that Cynthia has this tradition of offering a blessing. I think it's a wonderful tradition. I hope you never stop, Cynthia. And today I'd like to share my blessing for you, whether you're here in this chapel or whether you're watching remotely or whether you're watching in the future. This is what I want you to take away from our time together today. May you, above all else, have a deep sense of the transformative nature of God's presence in your life. May your inner faith flow naturally out of you and into the world in powerful and manifestly physical ways. May your dreamscape be one of imagining what good may come from your life, dreaming of how you might be God's vessel of healing, renewal, and restoration in a deeply hurting world. Imagine how your faith, enlivened by what you do and not by what you say, may change the life of another.